We're all sick, tired, and wasted. We're all sick, tired, and wasted. You're not the only one. Welcome to Redacted Tonight VIP. I'm Lee Camp. This is a big show. This is a big one. Tonight I talk with Ray McGovern, a 27-year veteran of the CIA and now an activist for peace, transparency, and accountability in our government. In 2003, he co-founded a group called Veteran Intelligence Professionals for Sanity, made up of mostly retired members of the U.S. intelligence community. For the past 15 years, they have fought to bring forward the truth whenever it seems to be counter to the government line or the media propaganda machine. Most recently, they came forward with a bombshell analysis saying there's no proof that Russia hacked the DNC last year. And in fact, there is evidence it was a leak from inside the DNC. Their report upends everything our government and the mainstream media have been feeding us, forcing down our throats for months. So this is a big show. Here now is my conversation with Ray McGovern. Ray, thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
So, since even before the presidential election, we were already seeing our media push this Russia storyline narrative, new Cold War narrative that they've been pushing. You and your colleagues with VIPS recently put out an extensive memo showing that the DNC was not hacked, that it was almost definitely a leak instead of a hack. Can you go through some of the ways you know that?
Well, we've been saying for a whole year now, and when I say we, this is really out of my technical expertise. When I was a national intelligence officer, working for the head of the CIA in his community role, I had call on expertise from all over the place, from the scientists, from the engineers, from anyone, okay? And that's the way you work in this kind of milieu. And so when all this hacking came up, I looked at our little roster of specialists and I said, my God, we've got the two former technical directors of NSA.
Right.
We've got people who worked, cumulatively over 100 years for NSA in very senior positions. So I said, wow, this is great.
These are my guys.
So you pick those guys, right? So I asked Bill Binney, who was the most experienced and who actually contrived or set up many of the collection systems that NSA still uses. I said, Bill, tell me about this. And he said, well, the most important thing you need to know, Ray, is the difference between a leak and a hack. Now, a hack has to go across the network, has to go across the internet. We cover the internet, as NSA says, iron bound, they get everything. I said,
the NSA gets everything.
Yeah. And so I said, come on, everything, millions, billions, trillions. He says, Ray, I'm sorry, yeah, okay. And now I can talk about it because Ed Snowden has shown exactly how you do it. Right. The trace routes within these systems, he said, I've mapped them out. I know where they're, so yeah, trust me, Ray. Yeah. If the NSA had this kind of thing, they would certainly have acknowledged it by now, or the
evidence of an internet hack.
Yeah. And so what this was, surely, Ray, was a copy off a computer, a thumb drive, or something like that, an external storage device, and that doesn't go over the network, and so NSA can't get that. Okay. Now, that's the kind of negative evidence that we've had for a whole year. Okay. I mean, like, you can always have a Rumsfeld to come up and say, now, come on, guys, the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Right. Okay? So you went to Princeton, you learn that kind of thing at Princeton. So in other words, if there's no evidence of WMD, weapons of mass destruction, that doesn't mean they're not there, okay? Right. So you always have people say that. Now, about 6 weeks ago, we learned that independent forensic scientists like us, with no access to grind, just said, this really smells. Let's go into the metadata. Let's go into the forensics of this celebrated hack of July 5 last year, and let's see if we can find out more about it. And they did. And reports started coming in. about 6 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago. And the first thing we did was jump on them. And I quizzed all our specialists. I said, Bill Binney, what do you think? He said, well, this is what we're waiting for, Ray, QED. Now, for those of you who haven't had geometry in the last, if you didn't have geometry 50 years ago, you don't know. But that means the theorem or the theory is proved. Quod erat demonstrandum. That which was to be proved is proved. I said, wow, well, this is a story. He says, yeah, well, sure it's a story. And we crafted a story. We vetted it with our veteran intelligence professionals for sanity for 2 weeks, which is an unusually long period of time. And those who signed on were very happy with it. And then the nation took an interest in it. And we said, wow, now a nationwide magazine is interested. And so we cooperated with Patrick Lawrence, who, you know, was a little annoying because he kept asking questions, questions and questions.
Oh, how terrible.
Yeah, well, awful,
of a journalist.
I mean, we're not used to that.
Yeah.
So he did a real good job. And now, of course, the nation is under great pressure because this is so counterintuitive.
This is the Nation magazine.
Nation magazine, yeah. It's, you know, it's kind of so much against the Kool-Aid that's been drunk for a whole year now. The Russians.
Well, you guys have put out many memos starting back with WMD, and so I'm sure you're used to this kind of pushback going against the national narrative being pushed by the mainstream media. Did you see it back then with WMD?
Of course. You know, even when we were on active duty, so to speak, as intelligence analysts, when we said the Russians weren't 10 feet tall, oh, man. Pentagon.
They don't shoot lightning out of their arse, you know?
So, you know, we're used to this, but, you know, the neat thing about this is we have no access to grind. We're looking for the truth.
Right.
And on a matter of this significance, if, as I suspect, having done my personal poll, 80% of Americans believe that we have that clown in the White House, thanks to Vladimir Putin, that's pretty bad, you know?
Right.
Now, well, I hasten to add that we run into all kinds of what I'd call cognitive dissonance, because people say, "Oh, they're trying to let Trump off the hook." Now, why would anyone?
Right.
You know, there are so many reasons to impeach Trump.
To legitimately go after him, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like my grandchildren are going to have pure air to breathe, clean water. I mean, is that not enough?
There's legitimate reasons to go after Trump, and instead we're focused on this boogeyman, it seems. Well, I'm going to play the role of Al Franken here. Why did 17 intelligence agencies say it was Russia?
Well, number one, there aren't 17 intelligence agencies. There are only 16. Right. And there's this superimposed superstructure of the Director of National Intelligence who's supposed to coordinate all this stuff. But be that, let's say 17. It wasn't 17. But Hillary Clinton immediately said 17.
Right.
Everybody says 17. And the New York Times said 17. And then, wonder of wonders, James Clapper and John Brennan, two gentlemen, and I use the word loosely, not very well known for their credibility, said, no, you know, I know people say it's 17, but it really wasn't 17. It was, how many were there? Al Franken, how many were there? 4? No, actually, well, 3.
It's 3.
And actually not even 3, because these were hand-picked analysts. Now, we know from our intelligence experience that when you handpick analysts and you have a conclusion that you want them to reach, well, obviously you pick the right analysts, whether they're careerists or whether they actually believe what you want to. So the whole thing was pretty transparent. The memo that they came up with is, as I've said before, a disgrace to the intelligence profession because it gives no evidence to support these. We assess, and we assess a little bit more, and we assess, you know. What does assess mean? That means we're guessing. We don't have any evidence.
Right. Some of these terms to people that aren't in the intelligence communities, they hear assess, and they mean, oh, that means they came out with an analysis that showed but inside the community, assess just means it's kind of our idea.
Yeah, but then they say high confidence, right? High confidence. Well, we had high confidence that there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. So the sorrowful thing for us is that so many people in the agencies, in the intelligence agencies, in all 17, So many people know what kind of fraud this has been perpetrated on the American people, and not one. As with weapons of mass destruction, hundreds knew that, hundreds. Not one has come forth and blown the whistle. Now, with weapons of mass destruction, we had 3 Foreign Service officers, one in Athens, one in Mongolia, one in Washington. This is it. That's fraud. We quit, you know?
Right.
Short of tour and short of career in some respects. But this time we have nothing. And that's kind of, maybe we'll get some. Maybe somebody will be watching here and say, you know, this is really important. Russia's not a little rinky-dink country. We should do what we can to right this ship.
Well, it's so important, and it's actually very dangerous. We're pushing the world towards nuclear war. The nuclear scientists say we're 2.5 minutes from midnight or whatever. And
yeah, you know, it's also unnecessary. Now, there are people that are very interested in having a tense relationship with Russia. Right. And those, of course, are what Pope Francis called the blood-soaked arms traders. I mean, hello, there's a lot of money in tensions with Russia. And it's really very sad to watch those people, with the inordinate influence they have over policymaking, witness the fact that 54 cents of every dollar we pay in taxes goes to the military.
And you actually confronted Representative Adam Schiff about this. You had a moment with him where you know, and he's the ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee. So if anyone's going to know, it's him.
A week ago, when the president said this, I don't want to misquote him, the conclusions of the intelligence community with respect to Russian hacking were not conclusive regarding WikiLeaks. Now, you assert as flat fact that Russia did this. Do you know more than Obama?
Well, I can't go into the classified information. I have every confidence that the Russians used WikiLeaks, whether Julian Assange was a knowing participant or, as the Russians would describe, a useful idiot. That we will hopefully find out. But I don't have any question in the conclusions that the intelligence
You have every confidence but no evidence. Is that right?
No, I can't share the evidence with you.
Yeah.
Congressman?
I'm Paul Joy.
I'm former
That's bogus.
Security Center.
Yeah, let me just give you a quick thing so your audience can.
Yeah.
When this discotheque in Berlin, I think it was in the 80s, okay, it was bombed, okay? We lost 2 soldiers, 79 soldiers gravely wounded. We knew it was the Libyans. How do we know? Because we had an intercepted, encrypted Libyan message from their security services. It worked. We did it, and we escaped complete detection. A little ironic, right? So we had it. So what does Ronald Reagan do? Well, he bombs the hell out of Gaddafi's compound and kills one of his adopted little daughters, you know? And he, you know, the world is saying, "What? How do you know it was the Libyans?" So Reagan comes to us and says, "Give me that message." So we give it to him. He says, "We got to release this message." No, you can't do that. No. But the Libyans don't know we can intercept. They don't know we can decrypt this. So no, we'll lose it. Give it to the media. So we did.
Wow.
And within 2 days, the whole world calmed down and said, "My God, there it is. You know, we did it at 1:30 in the morning, and nobody knows about it." And it was legitimate. So, my point is simply, there are times when it's a matter of state. It just makes an awful lot of sense to blow a source. Now, did we suffer from that? Well, we missed that source for a long time. We have other sources. You know, there's ways of getting that information. This is important enough so that Adam Schiff should be able to say, "Look, I've seen the sources, and they're very persuasive, and give them to us," or he should just keep his mouth shut and say, "Well, that's what the 3 intelligence agencies tell me."
Since this memo came out, and these are very significant claims from very significant people like yourself, what has the government response been to the fact that this basically seems to not be a hack and is a leak and therefore is not Russian?
Well, we've been used to this response ever since we started making a lot of trouble on weapons of mass destruction 15 years ago.
Nothing.
See, they can do that because they control the media. Now, people say, "Oh, McGovern, you're exaggerating." But, you know, if you look at the New York Times, to whom everybody looks for what they can say, you can see that they suppressed information that is thoroughly important to put things together. You want to connect the dots? Well, there are dots there that the New York Times doesn't feel is fit to print. Why? Because they check with the White House.
We have to go to a quick break, but I'll be back in a moment with the rest of my interview with Ray McGovern. Welcome back. Here now is the rest of my conversation with veteran CIA analyst Ray McGovern.
Back in 2004, 3 months before the election, you know, Bush, James Reiser of the New York Times found out that NSA was scooping up all our telephone calls and all our emails 3 months before. He went to his people at New York Times, and he says, we got to get this out. No, you can't do that. Why? It's too close to the election. He said, what? Well, he acquiesced in that, right? He should have blown the whistle.
Yeah.
But he acquiesced. Okay, so what happens? A year and 3 months later, okay, December of 2005 now, Reason goes to his superiors and says, you know, this is a little embarrassing, a little awkward. You're paying me big bucks. I've written this book on the side. It's going to be really awkward when this book appears. It's in galley, 2 weeks you got. And they'll say, well, how come you didn't put any of that in the New York Times? It has to do with NSA scooping up all our emails and telephone calls in direct violation of the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. So what happens? The muckety-mucks of the New York Times go down and they say, Mr. Bush, we have to publish it. He says, no, you can't do that, can't do that. They're in the Oval Office, okay? Yeah. The head of the Salzberger and this guy who was ever head of the Washington office. And they said, well, we have to do that. I hope you, well, I don't understand. Come on, Mr. President, we put this off for a year and 3 months, for God's sake, you know. Well, so they went and published it on December 15th. Now, it made a big impact, but it was a year and 3 months too late. The New York Times is so proud of having done the expose, and Reisen is the greatest guy, the best, one of the best investigative reporters, but he didn't have the, well, maybe it's too much to ask, but if he blew the whistle, we wouldn't have had 4 more years of Bush, is my view.
Wow. Was there, to go back a little, was there a moment that you decided you had to go from active CIA to becoming, you know, a bit of an activist for sanity?
Well, I was, for sanity, thanks. There wasn't much sanity going around in the early years of the Bush administration. I had been retired for a few years, and I never thought I'd be back on, you know, active duty, so to speak.
Different kind of active duty.
But when I saw our former colleagues really being corrupted because Bush said, I want to make a war on Iraq, and it's your job to get me the evidence, it was very clear to us what was going on. It took until 2008, until the Senate Intelligence Committee issued a report saying that pre-war intelligence on Iraq was unsubstantiated, contradicted, or even non-existent. Those are the words of the chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee. Unsubstantiated, contradicted, or even non-existent. Now, I ask you, what does non-existent intelligence look like? Well, we knew that was going on, okay? And we tried to blow the whistle before the war. We wrote 3 memos to the president before the war. None of them were acknowledged. Only one got any play, and that was because we happened to find a sympathetic Agence France Presse, AFP reporter who put it out in the wire. That was when Paul
speaking of having to get published overseas, for this last question, I want to ask you about someone you and your colleagues are giving an award to. Seymour Hersh put out a recent article, and he was forced to put it out overseas again, but about how the Syrian chemical attack, which Trump used as the reason to begin, you know, direct bombing of Syria, you know, he put forward very clear evidence that it was likely a regular traditional bombing that hit a store of chlorine and other things, and that you know, his incredible reporting doesn't seem to have gotten much play on our mainstream media, despite this being such a crucial issue. So talk a little about that.
Got 0 play.
Yeah.
0.
Yeah.
Now, he used to be able to publish in the New Yorker. The New Yorker is, you know, gone with the Kool-Aid. New York Review of Books, same way. London Review of Books, they paid him to write this thing. And he was all set, and they said, well, we can't do that because it'll make it look like we're supporting Trump and the Russians. And not Trump, but we're supporting the Russians here. So he says, well, yeah, but it's the truth. No, we can't go. Well, here, we'll give you the $5,000, but we can't.
It's not the truth we want. Yeah.
So he had a friend in Germany. Die Welt is a pretty big, pretty broadsheet. And to their credit, they said, well, you know, it makes sense to us. It's been checked and double-checked. You have quite a reputation. We'll publish it. And they put immediately out an English version. But it didn't get anywhere. And so this thing where the President of the United States is attacking a foreign country without so much as saying hello to Congress and without as much as saying hello to the intelligence people.
Yeah.
That's how bad it was. He saw some pictures of these babies and said, wow, we're going to do it. And then who covers up for him? Mad Dog Mattis, the defense secretary, and these other generals around there that they have. So that story, my God, you know? I mean, here the Russians looking on at that, and they say, my God, you know, not even the generals could rein him in.
And watching our media celebrate his move, it's the one thing that all of our media loves Trump for. Anytime he bombs or sells weapons to another country, they're big fans.
It was quite remarkable, wasn't it? I mean, all of a sudden, from being really the terrible person, he became presidential.
Finally.
You shoot off 59 cruise missiles from those ships out there in the Med, you become presidential.
Suddenly, it's a magical formula. Suddenly, you're presidential.
The problem is that could happen again.
Yeah, it's very scary. But thank you for raising the alarm and for all your great work. And people can go to raymcgovern.com to learn about everything you're doing. Thanks so much, Ray.
Thank you, Lee.
Appreciate it. Hell of a guy. Crazy, mind-blowing stuff there. But I want to move to a completely different topic now. I want to talk about Ghent, Belgium. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Lee, all you do is talk about Ghent, Belgium. For the love of God, switch it up. I don't know, golf, Steve Buscemi, psoriasis, anything. Anything other than more about Ghent, Belgium. But no, I say nay, sir. I'm going to keep talking about Ghent, Belgium. It's leading the way. That city, Ghent, Belgium, is leading the way as a sustainable, commons-based city. It's this totally bizarre idea. I know it's gonna sound crazy, but it's this bizarre idea where the people of the town come together to work on things as if they all want to be part of the same society. It's bizarre. A new research report shows that within the last 10 years, the city has seen a 10-fold increase in local commons initiatives. The report defines commons as any shared resource, which is co-owned or co-governed by a community of users and stakeholders under the rules and norms of that community. Think such a thing would never work in America? Well, in fact, it already does. Believe it or not, there are some things like Ghent, Belgium, right here in our own American communities. Did you know that ordering a book from Amazon for $10 or $20, which is then packed in a box 7 times the size of the actual book, packed in there by overworked, underpaid employees who hate his or her life, and then that book is shipped across the country, and then you read it and you just burn it or use it to paper your bird cage or throw it out? Did you know that's not the only way to read a book? There's also a place you can go to check out a book from the community and then return it at hardly any fee. It's called the public library. It's insane. Totally bizarre. I know. We can't have people just sharing things. We can have people just pooling our idea of a community, and each of us get to participate in that community. It would be chaos. No, you can buy the book for $20, and then once you're done, you put it on a shelf and ignore it. But you have it on the shelf to make sure no one else gets that book. Very important. That is step 2 of reading a book. You read the book, put it on the shelf, hold it there so no one else can have it. Now imagine if the same thing as the public library were done with, say, tools. You need to use an electric saw once every 3 years, right? Most of us are not sawing a whole bunch of things. Every once in a while, a zombie comes after us, and you gotta get the saw out. But in general, you don't use it that much. So once every 3 years, or an axe, or a screwdriver, or a bevel, a chisel with a bevel edge. Well, right now, we're encouraged to deal with that by buying a bevel or whatever for $43. You use it once, then you, again, step 2, store it on a shelf so no one else gets it. Very important. No one else. Then you forget it's on that shelf, you go buy another one, you put it next to the old one. So you have 2 on the shelf. But then when people come over, you go, look at that, 2 electric saws. That's how wealthy I am. Might as well get a backup bevel or 2. You know how it is, just in case. Sharing is so much easier nowadays, could be easier with smartphones and apps, right? We could have a whole revolution. That is, you're starting to see the beginnings of it. We could easily have a tool share app that allows everyone in the community to register their tools and share them at hardly any cost. We have begun doing this, some, for example, ride shares and car shares. But most of these things, these apps, these sharing community is still profit-seeking corporations. Rather than communities just doing it to have a better community, it's a business. Basically, right now, a business person gets an idea. I'll create an app that allows all the people in the community to share tools. Great idea. That's a great idea I just had. Then I'll figure out how I can get them to pay me the most money possible to use those tools from each other. Then I'll slowly make it so that they can only use the tools if they have that app, so that everyone will have to pay me. Then I'll be rich. Then I'll snort some coke off a Peruvian hooker's ass, man or woman. I do not discriminate. So that's how it works right now. But it doesn't have to be that way. There are many public services that we use and share, and we don't even realize that's what they are. You know, we in some ways we already have this. We just need to understand it better. For example, the police are basically a public utility. The problem is they aren't being governed by the community where they operate. If the cops were actually accountable to the people in the community, then they behave a lot differently, rather than being sent MRAPs and grenade launchers from the Pentagon. The ruling elite don't want us to know this idea is even possible, that Ghent, Belgium is even possible. They don't want us to know there's a much better, more sustainable, more cooperative way of behaving and living. Such a realization would hurt their bottom line, hurt their money, hurt their profit. The more electric saws and bevels that are built and sold and shipped across the country, the better it is for them. Basically, the less sustainable, the better. And the richer the corporatocracy gets, the more they have to militarize the police to protect the insane inequality in this country and around the world. That's all the time I have, but I have live shows coming up in Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., and more. For details or to vote for your city to be added to the tour, just go to redactedtour.com. It only takes a second. Also, I put out a web-exclusive video just the other day on the DACA controversy. You can get that at youtube.com/redactedtonight. And lastly, you can now watch Redacted Tonight and all of RT's programs on DirecTV, channel 321. Good night. Keep fighting.
To keep fighting, doctors recommend a daily dose of Redacted Tonight. Side effects may include side-splitting, knee slapping, and spitting up drinks. Click subscribe for updates on new videos.